everyone, and welcome back to another edition of BrainScratch. I'm happy you're here joining me. I am John Lorden, your host into this show about unanswered questions, conspiracy theories. We look at all that kind of stuff, but we look at it with an open mind and hope to start new dialogue and maybe some new theories about what could be happening in these cases. And in this episode, actually right here I've got my BrainScratch suggestions Excel sheet. Whenever someone leaves a comment about a potential episode, I take a look at the subject, and if it looks like something that could work for the show, I note it here. And I just want to kick a thank you to Miranda P. for mentioning the Denver International Airport, which is something I think I spoke about lightly in a previous episode. There are a couple of things that we're going to dive more into about this, and I thought it would be a nice shift away from some of the heavier episodes that we've had. There's been a lot of episodes about unsolved murders, and I thought this might be a good way to kind of lighten things up a little bit, but then I did the research. I'll get more into that. So, thank you, Miranda P., for the suggestion, and we're going to start here with just a quick clip from a show called American Declassified. As always, I'm going to have links for everything that I'm showing you down in the description box so you can check it out for yourself. This show, I believe, is currently also on Netflix, including this specific episode, which I watched and was my first entry into this subject matter. And this is a conspiracy show. Just know that you're going to watch it and it's going to be coming from that kind of specific tone. However, they present some very compelling information and they get some good footage in this episode. I pretty highly recommend watching it. So let's just see a quick clip so we can see what all the fuss is about.
At 53 square miles, Denver International is America's largest airport. But there are those who believe there's more here than meets the eye. Conspiracy theorists maintain there is a secret underground base beneath the airport that would shelter the power elite in the event of a nuclear holocaust. To build a massive underground complex, you have to displace massive amounts of dirt.
And they did. Basically, it goes on to talk about how there are essentially these new hills that are around the airport, and all they are is displaced dirt. And it's a lot of dirt, and it's kind of debatable about how deep, how many levels down they dug. But also worth noting around all this is all the money they spent. This thing went severely over budget, to the tune of billions, if I remember correctly. And that's part of the conspiracy theorist angle at looking at it about, hey, where's all this extra money? Obviously, they've built some kind of resources down there that we're not considering. The official story is that one of the levels is, it was supposed to be a system for luggage transportation, kind of like an automated system, and apparently it failed, so it's not being used in that way. In one of the other video clips we're going to review, I don't think we're going to watch that part of it, but you can check it out in the description below. It's the clip from Fox where they go and investigate, and they actually get into the under layers a little bit. They show that there are drivers that are driving the luggage in those same hallways, and you can see over them the track system that the luggage was supposed to be carried on automatically. Now, part of the conspiracy talk about that is, hey, it's pretty strange for something to go through design phase and to eventually be shuttered like that and not put into production. I happen to know that there are a lot of labor laws around the job of luggage loaders, and I have a feeling that the automated system not being used is probably more of a political thing than actual technical issues. If you think about how many people it takes to move luggage, that's a lot of humans, and if you can automate that process, you're going to save a lot of payroll. And, you know, conveyor belt systems have been around for decades and decades and decades. They're not that hard to implement or manage. So that story does have some weak points, but like I said, my belief is that it was probably more to do with labor laws pertaining specifically to the luggage loaders and transportation jobs. That being said, they dug out a lot of dirt. They spent a lot of money. There are some strange items actually in the airport. Some of the art is kind of odd. We're going to look at some of that later. And there is a Freemasons logo and plaque dedicated in one spot that apparently there's been a time capsule from the Freemasons put in. A lot of people look at that and they're like, what did the Freemasons, do with this structure? It mentions in particular an entity I think called New World Airline Authority or something like that. So people are like, hey, New World Order, is this related to that? Also something that this episode of America Declassified doesn't seem to go into too far, but the conspiracy theorists definitely do, is that these underground layers might be for some type of extraterrestrial functionality. Possibly ETs could be landing there, transporting things there. We're going to get into a bit more of that when we hit this weird twist that I hit in the research on this today. So this next link is from IntelliHub.com, and this is actually written by someone that is featured in that America Declassified episode. However, this news is more recent. This is just from a year ago, a little over a year ago. And in this, he has found someone that he is calling a whistleblower that is presenting new information about those deep underground levels. I can tell you, I've read through this whole article and it wasn't very convincing to me. First of all, that he even had any information that was really all that relevant. There are a few points, this one in particular. A nearly 3-mile long tunnel heads out from the intermediary entrance BE64B to a full-blown Department of Defense sanctioned militarized entrance, nestled in a set of 5 buildings 120 feet beneath the surface, located northeast of the Jeppesen Terminal. That's about as close, or I would say the best piece of information that came out of this supposed whistleblower, that there has any government functionality going on down under the Denver International Airport, and it's pretty weak by the standards that I typically look for information. There is nothing to back this guy's claim up. This is an unknown whistleblower, so he's not explaining any of his job functionality, how he comes to know this information. He mentions like this door entrance, BE64B, and that kind of gets its own bullet point too, like that's a big piece of news. That sounds like a droid from the new Star Wars movie. Anyone can make up that information, so it just doesn't resonate very strongly. The author of the article doesn't do anything to really help me buy into this guy's information. As a matter of fact, most of the article reads like it's traditional news about what the official story is at Denver International Airport, and then all of a sudden he kind of takes this turn and says, oh, but we've got this whistleblower and here's what he says. It just feels very, very shaky to me. And I'm of the mindset that something is going on down under there. In the episode of America Declassified, you'll see that they actually go on a tour down there, an official tour, and they get to a certain point where the tour is stopped, and there's literally a doorway. They can see through the doorway, and it looks like there are offices down there. And I think the person even noted that, yes, there are some offices that were built down there. So there is definitely a section of the underground part that you cannot access any further. In the Fox News clip that we're going to get to in a little bit, they don't even get that far. They don't even get to that point of the door. And they pretty much write off that there's anything else down there because the guy giving them the tour says, oh, well, I've showed you everything that I've been able to find down here, which is very, very weak. Man, journalism is in such a bad spot nowadays. But anyway, IntelliHub, if you want to check out this supposed whistleblower for yourself, you can check it out in the links below. Now this is RationalWiki.org, who kind of takes up conspiracy theories and they try to counter them with good research and viable information. That being said, it is written, and it's weird that this comes up. There are people that are conspiracy minded, and then there are people that just insist that conspiracies can't exist, which I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever been cheated on, guess what? You were the victim of a conspiracy. It is almost human nature for people to have secrets from each other. That is a conspiracy. A group of businessmen getting together to fix prices, we already know that occurs regularly in our industries. Those are conspiracies. But there's this mentality from the other side, that conspiracy-minded people are ignorant, they're not willing to look at facts, and there's this kind of know-it-allism, or this elevated view that, I'm not dumb enough to fall for conspiracy theories. Man, then you obviously have not researched the CIA. I mean, there are things that we know for a fact are conspiracies that have gone on. We have documentation, we have the proof. Not to mention, like I said, it seems like it's basic human nature. That being said, this article is written pretty fairly, just a little bit of a hint of superiority in some of its comments. But they mention kind of the high points of why people think something is going on there. First of all, the runway layout. If you look at a shot of Denver from above, and I really should have brought one up for you, but quite honestly, I don't really see, it's not a great example. Well, I guess you can kind of see it. Supposedly, that's supposed to be a swastika. I can kind of, there's a runway, there's a runway, there's a runway, there's a runway. It's a swastika with like an extra leg. It's got, maybe 2 extra legs. There are apparently, there's 5. There are 5 runways there. This is the most efficient way to have those runways each have their own point of entrance and not have to cross air traffic in any way. Then you have the roads that lead from the runway back to the main terminal. It's a typical spoke and wheel design. This is used on every bicycle. This is used even in business methodologies, spoke and wheel. So this, does it look like a swastika? Maybe, but is that enough to think that there's a conspiracy going on there? Probably not, unless you think that the aliens are Nazis and they need a X marks the spot for where they're going to land their ship because their navigation sucks. I don't know. That's definitely not enough for me to buy into a conspiracy angle. Denver already had a fine airport, Stapleton International. That is a bit debatable. Apparently Stapleton International, I think, had more runways than this, but they actually bisected each other. You couldn't use them all at the same time. There was parts of them that would run over other parts of them, so it was not as efficient. There was something that happened in 2007 where 14 commercial aircraft reported spontaneously shattered windshields. Apparently that has been explained with some science that seems reasonable. They have certain wind patterns there, temperature differences there, and something happened with a lot of the windshields in 2007. I guess if you want to look at the flip side of that, you can say, well, why doesn't it happen regularly there? Underground facilities exist to either hold detainees or the headquarters of the New World Order, the new Nazi Party. And I believe that theory is kicking around and is a bit popular because of some of the artwork that was installed in the actual airport, which we're going to look at later. And that is their last point. The art at DIA is really weird. It contains weird alien languages, soldiers in gas masks, oppressing peasants, and Freemasons plaques. Well, we already talked about the Freemason plaque, and if you look around, I used to work in Hollywood, there is Freemason messaging all over the buildings, particularly the older buildings down there. So I'm kind of used to seeing that be in place for buildings that have any history. So if there were, Freemasons are typically pretty affluent. If they had pitched money into the construction of this in some way, I can see that it possibly gave them a leg into getting this plaque installed. Now, should the plaque have, the words New World Order on there, or New World Airlines, or whatever that motto was, might have been a little insensitive. Apparently it's an organization that doesn't even really exist. But if they're contributing to the building that building, I think that they are allowed to put a message in like that. Next up, so in doing the research here, I found out about this piece of art. I'm actually going to jump ahead to it. There it is. That's it actually installed. Which is kind of weird, but kind of cool. I mean, I could see certain people having that possibly as a tattoo or something. A little strange for an airport, maybe. But the sculptor was actually killed by that sculpture. Luis Jimenez, a successful but often controversial sculptor whose work was supposed to be installed at Denver International Airport this year, died Tuesday in what authorities are calling an industrial accident. Part of a 32-foot sculpture was being moved with a hoist at Jimenez's New Mexico studio when it came loose and struck the artist, pinning him against a steel support, said the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department. He was taken to the Lincoln County Medical Center, where he was later pronounced dead. So, just kind of weird that a sculpture like that would take out its creator. Also, there was a little back and forth between the airport and him. Apparently they sued him twice over that sculpture, just delays in getting it. And then apparently they wanted to move it inside, and he was going to countersue them for that. It looks like it was eventually installed outside, and they had to figure out how to finish it, because I believe it wasn't in a finished state when it killed him. Just a little bit of a strange wrinkle in the story there. This is some more of the art that's a little strange. This is near the baggage claim section, and as you can see, it's a gargoyle in someone's bag, and he's a pretty ugly dude too. You know, I guess if that's your thing, it's alright, but didn't anyone consider that, you know, children, like lots of children, are going to be coming through this location over and over and over? It just seems a little insensitive, maybe, to me. Alright, this is the one piece of art that I think is really kicking up the conspiracy theories around this. And can you blame the people for at least wondering? That looks almost like a Nazi soldier carrying a machine gun in one hand, a sword in the other. The sword is piercing a dove while children are sleeping right in the sword's path. And over here on the far left we have women crying with what looks like dead children that they're holding. Once again, just if nothing else, crazy insensitive to put this type of imagery in there. And now people that have looked at, you know, both sides of these conspiracy theories say, well, yeah, but that's only part of the installation. Right across the hall from there, there's another picture that is all happy. So let's take a look at that one. Here we go. Here's the happy picture, which, yes, it looks like a bunch of children of all different nationalities. Everyone seems happy. But if you kind of look at what's happening in the photo, they are holding bundles of swords wrapped in their flags. But then look down here, you've got this ghoulish soldier, once again holding a weapon. The weapon is broken, the doves are standing on the machine gun. It's really, really odd. It is just a bizarre choice for artwork. So let's take a look. This is from the Fox report, and I highly recommend that you check this out. But like I said, keep in mind they didn't dig very deep. But let's hear about this art installation.
There's an explanation for everything.
Where DIA art director Matt Chazansky explains what the murals really mean.
It's talking about the destruction of the environment, pollution, the endangered species, and even he saw the endangered cultures, the loss of cultural language and of cultures around the world.
He says the plaque marks the spot where a Masonic time capsule is buried.
I wasn't there for the discussion about why that happened, but I know that happens in a lot of buildings.
So it said New World Airport Commission. That's the group that I keep forgetting. So yeah, he had a great explanation for the art. It's about the destruction of happiness and wow. Yeah, I would really wish that they would reconsider that art. How about that? How about those murals don't have to stay there forever if they're so controversial? Is that possible? Can we get a can of paint in there and maybe just, you know, I mean, yes, it is art. Yes, artists should be able to express their opinion, but I think we have to have a little common sense about it, and this type of art being presented in this type of area does not seem like it has a lot of common sense behind it, in my opinion. Alright, so around looking at all this, not only did I bump into that first strange news about the artist of the devil horse on the lawn of Denver International Airport being killed by his own creation, but I found this other video. This is actually from How Stuff Works, which is a pretty good YouTube channel, and they have this kind of conspiracy-based series that they run as well. And I was just watching this one, and then I came across this.
So why did Phil Schneider believe the airport is some sort of base for the New World Order? He claimed that he was involved in the construction of multiple underground bases, and that one of these is below the Denver airport. He also claimed that he survived an alien-human battle and was monitored by invisible government agents. Like many conspiracy theorists, he believed he was in danger and targeted by the powers that be. Was he correct? Phil Schneider's body was found on January 17, 1996. Police ruled it a suicide. Many of his family and friends believe he was murdered.
So welcome to another regular edition of BrainScratch, where apparently we talk about strange murders. I had no idea that this story was going to hit one, but we once again did. So I went and took a look for Phil Schneider, and what's interesting is when I first searched for him on Google, I just typed in Phil S., and he came up, I think, second in the list. Very popular search. As a matter of fact, worth noting, if you Google search on Denver Airport, you'll see the first result to come back there is conspiracy, which I think is also interesting. Apparently a lot of people are talking about this. But Phil Schneider, for someone being that popular with Google search results, I could not find a Wikipedia article about him. I found a Wikipedia article that referenced him as a source, but that was it. I did a bit more digging, and there are several websites, kind of smaller blogs, that are really blasting him for his beliefs. And apparently, you just heard he thought he was attacked by aliens. He's a geologist, apparently, and the conditions around his death do appear to be somewhat strange. This is a video clip of the last speech he gave. This was actually in November of 1995, and he was found dead in January of 96. And I've got it queued up right to the part where he's talking about Denver.
So it's something brand new. In Colorado, yes, there's about 4 underground bases, one being Denver International Air Base. I call it Air Base, Spaceport, or whatever you want to call it. Denver International Airport. No wonder your luggage gets lost. There are 8 levels underneath the airport.
So he claims there are 8 levels underneath the airport. By the way, the audio is synced really badly. This was taken apparently from a VHS source, and the audio didn't go well. But I watched the entire thing, and he is... I guess I would classify him as a bit of an extreme conspiracy theorist. He has one theory that just wraps everything in together. A new world order that is working with some type of aliens. That ties together to deep underground military bases, DUMBs, as we've been talking about on some of the Jade Helm videos that I've been doing, and even martial law. That all of this is some mechanism to try to essentially get control of the planet, thin out its population, and then that way aliens can come and take it or take us or whatever they want. So it's weird because at the start of this presentation he really hits it from the angle of being a geologist. He has a bunch of samples with him of materials that he swears contains alien properties, materials that are used for military aircraft. He talks a lot about secret projects going on with the military, secret budgets that are being used, and he insists that there are over 120 of these underground military bases, all strewn across the U.S., connected by tunnels that apparently you can get from one base to the next. He also thinks there is an underground railway system, high-speed railway system, where you can get literally from the west coast to the east coast in about an hour and a half. And it's weird because you don't know if you can really knock this guy. He does appear to have some experience, at least in terms of geology. He says that he worked on, I think, about a dozen of these underground military bases, but it's hard to verify that information. If you go looking on the web, it's almost like this dude has been erased from official records. I was really surprised that someone that's that popular of a search result does not have a Wikipedia article written about him. The info you do find about him it's highly debated. It's a lot of people attacking his theories, a lot of people attacking his experience. He says that he apparently lost some fingers when he was attacked. There was something had gone wrong, and some aliens essentially attacked U.S. Military, FBI agents, I think, as well. And he says that he's one of 3 people that survived that. The other 2 are in Canada. One of them can't talk, and the other person won't talk. But he lost some fingers in that exchange. He got shot in the chest, and apparently he has a big scar from that, and it also gave him cancer, whatever shot him in the chest there. So it's a bit strange, but he did a pretty good tour in, I think, 1994 and 1995. He gave speeches at over 30 places. And it's really, I don't know what to think about it. If you have an hour to spend and you're curious about it, I'd really like some comments from you guys on what you think about this. It's really tough for me to dispute some of his stuff, but it's really tough to buy some of it too. Almost in the same way that I was talking about that first article, not justifying where the information is coming from. For him to be a geologist, how does he have so much information? How does he know about all these underground military bases? Just because you're working on one, I mean, if you worked in modern business or in our current administrations, you know about information containment. They don't just go telling everybody everything. So this guy seems to have a lot of knowledge that I don't quite understand how his experience brought him to. Nevertheless, I don't think anyone should be killed for their thoughts, and that is a bit of a question in this case. I actually found 2 completely different articles talking about his death. Al Pratt suspected something was wrong with his friend Philip Schneider. For several days in a row, Al had gone to Phil's apartment in Wilsonville, Oregon, saw his car in the parking lot, but received no answer at the door. Finally, on January 17, 1996, Al Pratt, along with the manager of the Autumn Park Apartments and a detective from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, entered the apartment. Inside, they found the body of Philip Schneider. Apparently, he had been dead for 5 to 7 days. The Clackamas County Coroner's Office initially attributed Philip Schneider's death to a stroke. However, in the following days, disturbing details about his death began to surface, leading some to believe that Philip Schneider had not died from a stroke, but in fact been murdered. So that's one version of the story. Now here's another version. Philip Schneider died on January 17, 1996, reportedly strangled by a catheter found wrapped around his neck. The bizarre death being dismissed by the authorities as suicide. Those stories don't really line up very well. I don't know how you have one where they assume that he had a stroke, and then in the other, they think that he strangled himself with a catheter? The cord from a catheter? Really? How the hell did that happen? It's really strange. I did some more searching into Philip Schneider's death, and I can't find much more information besides these 2 very brief explanations for what happened to him. This is where I'm going to ask you, brain scratchers, for help. If you think you have some angles on how to research this a bit deeper for me, please, please, please send me some links, add some comments below. I'll be sure to check them out. I could easily do a follow-up segment on this if you guys find some good information. But it's a bit tough. It's almost, once again, I have this feeling that this information is kind of being wiped away. And if you just leave YouTube videos of this guy talking about his conspiracy theories, maybe people won't pay a lot of attention to it. But if you have a mysterious death that is being noted in somewhat official records, even a Wikipedia article, I think that maybe draws more attention to it than people want. It's just really weird because Wikipedia is user-contributed information. So I'm not sure if just no one's interested in adding that, which, if he's that popular of a search term, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Or if it's my latter thought, which is someone is removing that type of information, which would really point to some type of conspiracy. Uh-oh, there's that C word again. So I think that's it for this one, BrainScratch fans. And please also include any further information or thoughts that you have on the Denver International Airport. What could they be doing in those deep down levels? Is there 3? Is there 8? We really have no idea. I think in the in the American Declassified documentary that they actually mentioned 3 specifically, so we know that there's at least 3 down there. But there could be more. And what could they be doing? Are they really operations for military? Are they operations for aliens? Something else completely different? I don't know. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that. Thank all of you for joining, and I really just wanted to send my appreciation to everyone. I've been loving the comments. I went on vacation last week and I came back and I had a good dose of comments to go through, and I was just so happy that there's such good spirit going on with these conversations. I know occasionally people have different points of view, but overall, you guys are a fantastic audience. I love the way that you respect each other, even when your opinions differ, and I look forward to reading much more from you guys on all this stuff. Hope you're having a great week, and I'll catch you on the next BrainScratch.